Hey everybody, here I am just to talk a little bit about Johnny 5, the JavaScript robotics and Internet of Things platform. And I'm going to be looking at two different code repos. One is this J5 Simple, the other is this Eyeball Pie, and they're both linked on the assignment page you just came from. So let's take a look at the J5 Simple first. And the Johnny 5 Simple repo actually has a bunch of different code in it. Let's look at J5-2LED. And this code won't run on a Mac or most Windows machines. It will run on a Raspberry Pi. But I just want to take a quick look at it here. We've got, first we import the Johnny 5 library as this variable 5. Then we import this library called Raspy.io as a variable called Raspy. And we make a variable called board, which will be a new 5.board. So from the Johnny 5 library, a board object. And pass in a new Raspy from the Raspy.io library. So that's the board we're passing in, is a Raspberry Pi. And we'll just wait for this message ready. When the board says it's ready, which we handled in Johnny 5, we'll run this function, which will create two new LED objects from Johnny 5, passing in some GPIO pins. And this is one syntax for passing in a GPIO pin. And we'll look at the other syntax in a second. And then when they're ready, we just say LED green blink. So it's just going to blink. And this other one will say when 5 seconds have passed, turn that off. This other one is going to blink LED red, and on and off, essentially. All right, let's look at another one with a button, and this one's got a different syntax you can see for passing in the GPIO pin. In one case, we can say P1-13-36. The other, we can say GPIO and give it a number. And my mouse is so slow. And we can see those pins. Each pin has actually two numbers. It's got GPIO numbers, and it's got these other numbers. So these are the P1 numbers here in the inside, and the GPIO numbers are these ones on the outside. Why does it have two numbers? No idea. Just the way it is. And so in this example, we're saying, again, make the new board, set up an LED, also set up a button. And that button will now, when we receive a message of down from the button, we will turn on the LED. When we receive the message of up from the button, we'll turn off the LED. And so that essentially means when the switch is closed, let's turn on the LED, and when the switch is not closed, turn it off. And we can look at that eyeball pie game for a sec just to see where sockets comes into play. So now, where before we were just dealing with the board, right? With this GPIO pins, and the things we're controlling are in the real world. When we want to control a sketch running from a web browser, now we need to add sockets. We've got Express, we've got sockets, just like we did last class. And we've got these other things we had as well. And now what we'll do is set up our server, serve our sketch from the public directory, and set up our board, with our buttons. You can see left button, right button, mystery button are all in this array of buttons. And now we're saying when there's a connection, we're going to emit a message when the button at 0 is pressed. And when it's released, we'll emit a different message. Same for each button, right? Or actually here I just do left and right button. The mystery button obviously didn't get wired up there. Right, and so right and left button, right and left button, and then buttons at 0, buttons at 1, buttons at 0, buttons at 1. And we can go to our sketch and see we're registering to receive those messages. On button pressed, do this thing. Button released, do this thing. And yeah, so that's pretty much that. Oh, that's public old, my bad. I was wondering why that didn't look right. Here we are. Button, left button, right button. Socket on left button, socket on right button. And we'll just take a look at that again. The server, send message, right button, right pressed, right button, right pressed. And so this is actually going to send that message on press or release, which might be actually a coding error on my part. But what that's going to do is it's going to move the player1.x either in a negative or positive direction. And that's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. All right, so we're going to see how this works with the wiring now next.